Hi, this is Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV News 44, and we're here with Opinion versus Opinion on Wednesday, October 16, 2013. And right now on my right-hand side is Jonathan Charney, and right below us is John Matajasic. So, John, how you doing?
Hey, much better. Much better. And last time I looked, the Dodgers were ahead 4-2.
Oh, okay. Yay for the Dodgers.
Because the game started at 1:30 this afternoon.
That's an odd time.
And they played last night, and they wanted to give the, there's 3-hour difference. It was 4:30.
Right.
So people were listening to it on their way home in St. Louis. No, it was 3:30, 2 hours.
No, that's the game they play with an oblong ball, right?
No.
Bat. Oblong bat.
That's oblong bat. Yeah, because cricket is a completely different kind of bat.
That's right.
Anyway, but the Doggies were down 3-1 as to last night, and they may get back to 2-3 in a 7-game series. And although I am a San Francisco Giants fan, originally a Dodger fan, is because Rob and I both lived in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
In 1958 when the Dodgers came to L.A. and the Giants went to San Francisco.
It was our team.
It's been a while for the Dodgers, and I actually, with our friend the Judge, was at the 1984 playoff game with St. Louis, 7th game of the NLCS, and Clark hit a 3-1 home run in the 8th inning, and Cardinals went on to the World Series.
Right.
I
make a prediction here because there's probably no Dodger fans watching us at all.
I don't know.
If the Dodgers do not win this and go to the World Series, Dave Mattingly will not be their manager next year.
That's probably a good. That's
Don Mattingly. Mattingly.
You can make money on that one. I hope they do. It would be fun. I mean, they are my kind of like you. They are kind of my home team. Although, like you, I also like the Giants.
The Giants are gone. I bleed blue, brother.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Can we put that to a test?
So I don't. Yeah. So this is open for you, those if you are watching us live, and I've been finding out that more and more of you are actually watching us live, but you're not calling, which is 530-621-1210, 621-1210. Call in. This is Open Mic Wednesday, so we may just ramble on here with absolutely no nonsense unless you call and bring a story to us.
If you don't want to call in, push the button to contribute. $5, $2, $10.
That's right. Any dollars.
It's your penance for not calling in.
I'll even take euros. I'll take anything. Hit that donate button.
$30. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Better money. But it would be fun if those of you watching you. And like I said, I'm finding that more and more you're approaching me saying, "Gee, I love your show," or "Hey, when you said that, I didn't agree with it," and that was kind of interesting. We love it, and that's what this is what we want to bring to you. We want to bring what you want to talk about, because the two Johns and Jonathans here, these guys can go off on anything, and I'm not too far behind them. So it's always good to get some opinions and people to call. So what's happening? Let's talk about
take a dare. We'll make a bet. I'll cut my mustache off. Won't happen.
Oh my God! Yeah, won't happen. But all right, so big news today is government shutdown is over.
The drama is over. For a little while, we make it into the 2014 year.
What, three months, though, it's only over,
How many
right?
days, though? I mean, how many days was this one?
It was every part of 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, this is the longest one in history, and we may hit another one. Remember, we're only good through January, I believe.
Well, the deal,
I should have bet you money, John.
At the end of I'm not going to sit here and blow the whistle and go, hooray, hooray, we won. Because there's no winning when it comes up,
No, absolutely none.
We kick it down the road. Supposedly, we are supposed to negotiate. I will say where the winning part came, if there was one, back in September, Harry Reid said, look, we'll go at the sequester number for the budget, of which Boehner said, nah, I think we're going to go after Obamacare, whatever. So the concession was made. Again, and we've discussed this a couple of times, the sequester is not good, but it also, even from my, kind of moderate liberal side, I don't think it's so bad. I think it
Getting the
needs
call.
to be discussed and used more judiciously.
Hey, we have a call. We have a caller?
Come on.
Hello.
Yeah, well, what do you want to know my opinion about?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Just make sure that your computer speakers are turned off so you can hear us live.
Okay.
All right. So, who is this?
First name only.
First name?
Josh.
Hey, Josh. Well, thank you for calling. You've got the three of us sitting here just rambling away. What would you like to talk about today, Josh?
What are anything?
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about the end of the budget holdout and the debt ceiling. But anything you want, man.
It's
Fire
open
up.
mic. It's your topic.
I mean, do you guys want to talk about the New World Order?
Sure. What about it?
Can I have my buddy join? Adam, that's with me.
Sure.
New
Absolutely.
New World Order, like the wrestling group, or New World Order far
Hey,
as.
how's it going, guys?
Hey, good to hear from you guys. Thank you for watching and calling. So let's talk about it. What is it that you feel important enough that we should talk about?
Well, we've been sitting here today just kind of pondering about, the general direction that the U.S. is headed in right now, and kind of the historical landmark type events that we're seeing every day now occur, and what do you guys think about that?
Well, obviously, we broke new ground with the sequester as it went. I mean, this is the longest one in history, and we don't know that the next one won't go further along. And then what you have to take a look at is which side of the fence you sit on and what type of Republican or Democrat you are, because we have some issues here where, as a conservative and watching this going on, I think the only people in the Republican Party who didn't recognize the shutdown as a disaster for the GOP were the people that came up with the stupid strategy to find it. That's my opinion as a Republican. I don't know how you feel about it. What's your opinion?
Right. Yeah. Well, myself, I'm independent. I'm consider myself a libertarian or a constitutionalist.
Right.
And so, I also share kind of, I'm not a huge fan of the federal government as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that their track record is very, definitely not outstanding track record. And that's just a very broad statement, I know, but,
Well, but I've got to ask you to kind of. I have two questions for you. Number one, what part of California are you calling from? Where are you located? Up by Rob or down by me?
It's Folsom area.
Okay, so you're in that area. The other thing is when you make the statement that you're not really thrilled with the performance of the federal government, that's beginning at what point in time? Or are you disappointed from 1789 to 2013?
Well, honestly, I'm kind of young. I'm in my early 20s, and once I guess it kind of started. Once I started, quote unquote, not becoming a fan of them or whatever, my perspective kind of started changing. Once I figured out what was really going on.
Well, what's really
feel
going on?
My whole life.
Yeah, and like John said, out of curiosity, what is it in particular? I'm with you, brother, on this thing. I'm not a big fan of the federal government telling us everything what we can and can't do, but we also have states issues that I take exception to as well. So I agree. I understand where you're at. But what part of the federal government irks you the most?
I mean, I can state some things also on that. We can start with the drug war.
Okay.
The weapons bans that are going on in this country right now.
Right.
We're starting to look just like England. Soon we'll just be down to pheasant shotguns, and they're going to pull that, and no more private weaponry whatsoever.
Well, they're going to try. Well, they're going to try. We're going to fight this, though.
Go ahead.
We have so much.
So in your book, you have a very long list of things that the federal government is doing, and I understand. What's your feeling on the Affordable Medical Care
On the
Act?
on the medical right now.
Yeah.
On the insurance.
Sure.
My dad personally goes to the VA, and I've seen what socialized medicine would look like in this country, and it's very disgusting that they would.
The VA is not
things that
socialized
way,
medicine, but
let alone us.
okay.
Well, he has a right to his opinion. The VA does have its own series of problems with their medical.
Well, how they treat the veterans whatsoever. They need to be treated, and the pay they get that they're getting. I mean, let's talk about the checks that they cut off to these disabled veterans that went over and fought for us and come back with no legs, no arms, and get what, $2,000 a month with some crappy insurance.
Well,
it's a joke.
Well, here's the thing.
If you get a Medal of Honor, you get $2,100 a month. That's what your family gets if you die. That's it.
Well,
and that's acceptable. It's a joke. This whole entire government right now is a joke, and what they're trying to do.
Well, here's the truth.
I can tell you that the benefit was considerably lower after the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Jonathan.
Unlike any other country in the history of the world, we have the ability. I have to change it. I have to admit it's not as easy as it used to be. But if you look at the Declaration of Independence, if you look at the Constitution, we have the ability to change our government in fundamental ways. So as John has previously said, it's time that we, maybe pull what they did in the 60s, do things, let people know that we're not happy, vote, keep voting, grassroots things. I mean, whether you like the Tea Party or not, they're a grassroots organization. They went from meeting in people's basements to an organization that affected everybody.
Yeah, and Josh,
I'm a supporter of the actual Tea Party, not the Tea Party you see on like the real foundation, the original Tea Party. I think this country was founded on great beliefs. I just think right now, in the past 50 years, it's started to decline to look like a Soviet Union. Absolutely.
I will defend that it's not looking a lot like the Soviet Union. There are things happening. And if you've been watching, we've talked about the total erosion of our Fourth Amendment rights to privacy. I'm not as gun centric as John and Jonathan, but I don't think the issue are the issues of which guns are try to be taken out of private hands are valid. There are other solutions, but we've also talked about that. It's not purely a mental health issue. Part of it is a social issue. As to VA, the current VA sucks, but that has gone on ever since we went to Iraq and Afghanistan. It is reprehensible the way that our veterans have been treated when they came home through the VA. Their medical benefits, their VA benefits, all that stuff has been really bad. It was actually net almost better when they came home from Vietnam. And these guys came home to a country that hated them. Many guys, when they got discharged, took their uniform off before they got off the plane because they didn't want to suffer the slings and arrows of the populace of the United States. I don't disagree with you. I think that, and it is your future. It is your country. I haven't given up. I haven't walked away, nor has Rob. So, I mean, and I'm going to throw back to Jonathan. I think Jonathan's echoing some of my words. If you want it to change, the one thing that has been a proven fact in this country, in its 215-year history, if you want to make a change, you got to get out in the streets and say, hell no, this needs to be changed.
It reminds me of working at Hollywood Video actually years ago, is the person who bitches the most gets the most amount of change. Just complain.
And call here and start complaining here. But, I mean, you have to get organized. You have to get out. I mean, there's all kinds of nasty things said about unions now, but the fact of the matter, the 40-hour work week, which is now a 30-hour work week, vacations, health insurance from your employer, all this stuff was brought about by unions, and it was protest, and people got their heads busted, and I mean, but peaceful demonstration and demonstration, people getting together and going, no, it's not okay, has more effect in this country. And because of things you're talking about, like the NSA, and you have no right to privacy, and they'll find out who you are. Uh, we've got to put an end to that, because you need your Fourth Amendment right to privacy back.
That's what, exactly, and that's what I've noticed being taken away with them just listening in on your microphone, on your computer, turning on your webcam, just seeing what you're doing. It's unacceptable.
I mean, they build back doors into all the devices now. The PDFs, the iPads, everything has a back door from Microsoft or what have you, Apple, and that the NSA is collaborating with, and Google.
Gentlemen,
They're
you have a transmitter on your electrical meter on your house that sends information to what information and to whom? I'm not really sure, and I don't think I'm overly paranoid about that.
No, absolutely not. And we've talked about that. It's not only electricity, but it's your water also. Jonathan, go ahead.
There is a solution. If you're worried about Microsoft and Apple's OS 10 products, switch to open source. Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat. There are a bunch of open source OSs that people actually look at the legit code. They'll know if there's something wrong with it. If you want to make sure that on your computer there's nothing a problem, switch to open source. That's one of the only ways that you're truly make sure that you're free from government intervention on your software.
Yeah, but you see, that's one limited
stuff. Period. And I don't care what it's for.
It's like it's not the fact that I have anything to hide. I just don't understand why we're taking gradual steps toward an Orwellian state, and I really am not okay with it. And I don't understand.
And good for you. You
I agree.
should be. Yes.
I agree.
Believe me, of all three of us, none of the three of us are okay with it either.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
I made this statement, and a friend of ours, who makes arguments, he can win, came back, and I said no, because I said yes, we had been paranoid about intrusion up until 9/11, and the one thing outside of what they kicked the can down the road about the debt ceiling and the government being closed today. But it seems that in the Obama administration, from the Bush administration, they keep renewing the Patriot Act with no debate and no conversation. Just go, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Josh, that's the thing that we need to do as us independents or rhino Republicans or whatever you want to call us. It's important that we get that message out to, and
just like them using drones now in U.S. Airways, just flying over. People don't know. Don't cover it too much in mainstream media about drones flying over your cities now.
Well, it's not hard for people to look at Google Maps and understand the fact that, you're being looked at, your property's being looked at a minimum of every 2 years. And
have you ever zoomed in all the way on the Google Maps?
Yeah.
I've seen friends of mine standing in their yard.
Oh, yeah.
On Google Maps.
Oh, I've done the same thing. I've looked at what cars are there. That's how I date what that satellite went overhead, because I look at what cars are there, because you could get an idea of where I parked or what car I was driving, and that clues you in. And it's almost scary, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
And guys, and I've spent time in Australia and I've spent time in Great Britain, and in both and here's the problem. And you made the weapons analysis to Great Britain when we began, but they are observed closely by cameras.
Everywhere
all
in London.
England is
metropolitan areas
is a CCTV world. Every street in London has multiple cameras.
Likewise is Australia. I mean, Australians have some of the baddest ass cars you'll ever have, but they have cameras, and they time them, and they will send you a traffic violation in the mail.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me ask you, Josh. A lot of this camera stuff in the drone things and the satellite things are done in the name of protecting the country. Particularly with the Patriot Act. Have you spent the time and read that Patriot Act?
I have gone through a lot of it. Yes.
Yeah.
It's to protect the country.
Yeah, but do you find it as frightening as I do? Because basically,
It's very frightening.
You know, I've actually the mirroring qualities of the, characteristics, whatever you want to call it, between the Patriot Act and fascist Germany. I mean, Nazi Germany is actually, and I'm not trying to be extreme, but I really do feel that they're very similar.
There's some parallels.
The core, foundation of what they're trying to do.
And it's historically what you're talking about here is what's called, if you remember your history, and we started talking about political philosophers, Hobbes' argument was basic, put short and sweet: how much freedom are you willing to give up for security? And my answer is none.
Yeah, right after 9/11, when we were all one country for a very short period of time, and the Patriot Act was written, everybody was rah, 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 rah. But, I kept telling people, have you read this document? Because I certainly did, and I've read it about 6 different times. And the Fourth Amendment doesn't exist under the Patriot Act.
And we've talked, I don't know if you gentlemen have had a chance to watch. I'm the one that says, look, if I get my Fourth Amendment right back, my First Amendment right, my Second Amendment right, I'm not so concerned about my Third Amendment right. Although if we don't get the other 3 back, you might have to start worrying about, harboring soldiers in your home. But, your right to privacy, and that isn't your right to being covert or, doing ill, but your basic right to having privacy at your home and within the laws of the country. I'm doing, and within the laws of reasonability, what you do in your home is your business. And that includes your yard. I'm one of these people that don't like, tenant or neighborhood associations that can tell you how high your fence should be. I'm going, wait a minute. I own the bloody property.
Yeah.
If I maintain, and just the last weekend, I was home in Santa Monica and on 23rd Street. Some of the older homes, and Rob knows this is where we grew up. They look horrible. The people that live in them are either very old and don't have the money to attend to them or whatever it is. But the bottom line fact is those people own that property. And unless it poses a public nuisance or threat to the neighborhood from a fire hazard, hey, man, I own this property. I pretty much have the right to do whatever I want to do on the property.
And that's what I fully agree, and that's what I believe in. Why do you guys think they're so adamant on gun control right now in this country? Gun
control tends to be an emotional issue, and instead of being logical, they look at all the anti-gunners and the way they work. They're working on emotion. They're working on the back of dead children and politicians that have been shot, and it's woe is me. We're a gun crazy society. There's no reason for you to have it, and so the gun issue is a very tricky one. And what happens is that every time we lose one right, John gets on me a little bit about being zealot about the gun issues, but I feel the erosion every time a bill gets passed. Now we're talking about states' rights on this level.
Yeah, I totally agree with one.
Let me just interject here because I got into and Rob's got an answer for this. But in this week, over the weekend, Governor Brown did the right thing.
Not really.
And vetoed.
Well,
want more, Jonathan. I understand. But the fact of it is, we even spoke about this. It was a ludicrous, ridiculous, overreaching gun law in California.
Well, you were talking.
Passed.
You were talking about the assault. But you were talking about the assault weapon bill.
One at a time. One at a time. Because you guys are cutting people off. So one at a time.
Well, all right. So that particular bill was the assault weapon bill that was an addition to make everything basically an assault weapon, because it wanted to make that any detachable magazine made that particular weapon an assault weapon. The NRA was ready to sue on this situation. Brown, let me tell you my opinion on what happened. Brown vetoed every bill that he knew he was going to have a lawsuit on. He went down there and went, okay, economic-wise, they're going to sue me on this and this and this and this. So I'm going to veto them. And then I'm going to sneak in some other bills that people aren't paying attention to. And to this moment, if you guys don't understand it, AB 48 that was passed and signed by Governor Brown outlaws all high-capacity magazines, and a high-capacity magazine is any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds, outlaws any high-capacity magazine, period. That means there's no grandfathering in. If the gun that you bought came with a high-capacity gun prior to January 1, 2000, that high-cap, most of them had high-cap guns, you have to destroy them, move them out of the state, sell them out of state, or turn them in. And that he signed. So that one is sitting out there that could be a real problem. And we've got to figure out what's going to happen on that one. NRA, is my understanding, NRA is going to be jumping on that one like
I'm
no
sure,
tomorrow.
but we've had this argument before. I mean, how many more than 10 do you need?
The point is that what they're doing is they're taking property with no compensation, John.
Well, but they're not
Right.
until, and my comeback is until they are, the black helicopters and the guys are coming down the ropes and, and bringing weapons to your front door and saying, give it to us.
How?
All right.
So how
If-
many?
No, but
I
what you
have
forget
a-
about is the transport to a range, a transport to a gun shop, a transport to whatever legally that you can do if you take that high-cap magazine with you and you get stopped and your car is searched
It
for
could
any
be
reason.
confiscated.
It's a federal
Offense.
offense.
How did the state law make some?
Well,
is it a
because they
federal
can
law or
make
state law.
it's a state law, but they
That makes
can
it a federal
attach.
offense.
Well, they attach. Let's just put it this way:
I mean, I'm not.
Yes,
They
you-
gotta be. There's got to be some federal law
yeah. Well,
that they can.
they're
tap to
backing
do
it up
this.
legally under some other federal guidelines.
that's
It
the
really
NFA
isn't
Act,
a
right?
federal law. It is a state law on this. But it comes back down to the fact that they're literally going to confiscation without any compensation whatsoever on this situation. And this bill is just horrible. People got lost sight of this one because they got so myopic on just the assault weapons bill.
And you want to know how many bullets I want, John? I want enough bullets until I run out of them. I want more. I want 30. I want 100. I want to be ridiculous because it's my right to do what the hell I want.
Amen.
If I want something that shoots 1,000 rounds a minute and has the
That's
ability to
right.
go through 2 semi-trucks, I should have the ability to have it because financially I wouldn't be able to shoot
You
it
know
all
why
the time.
you got that ability? Because you pay taxes, you have rights, and you're not a felon, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah.
No,
well,
I'm not.
A couple of other things. As to, I have rights too. All right. So and I'm okay to leave you with the guns. I asked the hunting question. If you're a hunter, you're supposed to drop it with the first shot, maybe the second shot. In military situations, you have a multiple. I would want as many effing bullets as I could get if another human being, was shooting bullets at me. I don't want to run out. Okay, which is an underground argument. And this backdoor thing that you're talking about, and we usually go silent on this, and guys, I'm going to open up the Pandora's box. Abortion has been undermined in the United States on the state level, and it is also a law in this country that a woman has the very difficult choice to abort a pregnancy, and there are states in this country where they can't get it done because they have backdoored, as you say, Rob, legislation that makes it impossible for them to get that procedure in that state. It's not a gun,
Is it a guarantee?
but
right?
it's a personal right. It's a right. Of
It's a
people.
personal right, but there's nowhere in the Bill of Rights or anything that says a woman has the right to have an abortion. It's strictly
There is
a
nothing
different
that
issue.
said she doesn't have a right to have an abortion.
Well, but
True.
when we get to guns, we have a Second Amendment that gives us the right.
Which, by the way, is
So
very
there's your
unique.
difference between your.
Can I interject here real
Yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
And to play on the, what I believe we were given the Second Amendment for is because it was to protect from a tyrannical government.
That's
And
what the
it's-
Second
our
Amendment
founding
says.
fathers- hang on one second. Our founding fathers knew very well all about tyrannical government, didn't they not?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
What were they trying to escape? What were they trying to start anew? You know? And so
Right.
that was stated for the very reason that I believe the situation that I'm in right now at 21 years
Now,
old.
do you want to go into the rest of the Second Amendment of why you have the right to overthrow with a well-organized militia that Ronald Reagan federalized, which made many aspects of the law, if you want to get legal about it, invalid?
What law?
Okay.
Second Amendment?
Second Amendment?
No, he can't do that.
He did. He federalized the National Guard, which was quote unquote the well-organized state militia.
But that's still that's not how it was made.
It's not a real militia, though.
That amendment was put in to protect my freedom from being taken away.
Read the amendment. Well-organized militia. Doesn't say state militia.
Heller decision in the Supreme Court already answered that. Okay, the answer to that is, as individuals, we're our militia. Okay.
I think Benjamin Franklin and all the founding fathers that were sitting down, coming from a country that wasn't giving them freedom, they never wanted that to happen here. So they put that in that this can happen. That you have
Whoa. Let's go. If you want to go back to the Revolutionary War, you're stepping on some seriously thin ice when you talk to me, mate. What rights? Why did the Revolutionary War start?
Okay, why would they want that in there then?
Why? No, let's go. You said the revolution. Wait, what were they looking for freedom from? Why were they looking for freedom from Great Britain?
I can get into the actual history that wasn't just religion that they all wanted their own little calling if we want to really get into it. But the point is,
You can't get right into the history with me, my friend.
Okay, but why did they write that in there then? I want to know, since you know the history and you're so intelligent.
Because they wanted to protect against a tyrannical government. We had three governments before we ended up with the government that came out of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, which was suborned by the Federalist Papers. That is an argument about too much, too little, president, no president, king, no king.
Taxation without representation was a big one. I mean, the whole Tea Party situation.
Rob, what does that mean? Taxation without representation was the Brits were trying to pay for the 100 Years' War with the French on the back of the British citizens in the colonies.
Right.
We were taxed on things that if you were a British citizen in Britain, you weren't taxed on. They were trying to repay a debt on our back. They also didn't recognize, you brought up Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was a millionaire, was the Rupert Murdoch, was the media mogul of the 18th century. He supplied paper, press, and ink to 632 newspapers in the United States. He was a millionaire at age 43. But the Brits, because he was a British citizen in the United States, would not recognize him as a nobleman. They wouldn't commission Washington in the British Army because he was a British citizen in the United States. There were a lot of issues, but they were not treated like other British citizens. And after the Revolutionary War, many British citizens that had been 5 and 6 generations in the United States had to return to Britain because they feared for their lives amongst the colonists, which is not right or wrong. I mean, it's just, the spoils of war.
I guess.
But we didn't physically overthrow anyone. It was a unique revolution.
I think the question would be then, what do you call a tyrannical government? Is it the atypical Libya, Middle East, or what you see here?
That's pretty tyrannical to me if we look through history.
I'm sorry, Josh. I missed that part. What did you say?
Hold on.
Go ahead
Josh,
and repeat that statement again, Josh.
I believe there's a bill that was signed not too long ago that any
indefinite detention
without trial, you can be taken and thrown in a prison camp, just like Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, that's your Patriot Act.
No, this is a new thing, I thought.
Just passed. So I mean, it's kind of like this is a tyrannical government. This is like Russia. It is getting to that point. You can't tell me it's not. They started taking the guns away there, and all the other Soviet Union countries.
Mao took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Hitler took the guns. Barack's taking the guns.
No, Barack's not taking the guns.
Okay.
They're not coming to your door. They're not mustering you out of your house, going in and totally violating your Fourth Amendment
So-
rights, searching your home, gathering your guns, and going away with them.
They didn't do
And
that.
long before that ever happens, you'll see my old butt in the street and getting shot by somebody because that's not right. Now, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching you, and that doesn't mean that you
They could
shouldn't
come into my
be
house and
vigilant.
take me to Guantanamo without trial and tell no one.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
was, and Rob was correct. That was the Patriot Act that
Right,
has
that was
been
just
further
that.
elevated within the period, but way back to the Bush administration,
National Defense
you could
Act.
be incarcerated without being
National
charged.
Defense Act, look it up.
Yeah, it's hold on, just 1 second. Everybody calm down here for a second. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2013, the NDAA, National
That's the one we're
Authorization
referring to.
Defense Act. It does. There are some stuff to it. It's actually a ridiculously big bill.
Well, and the thing of it was certainly, obviously, passed by a majority of the House and the Senate,
I don't
which
care.
they couldn't do that to put the government back online or to raise the debt limit and keep us from going belly up.
I could put people and pay them to vote however they want.
Absolutely.
Money talks right now. And that's
the bottom line.
they're getting paid to vote for how a certain person wants the country to go right now. And they're voting that way. Republican or Democrat. They're both
Right.
violating their firm beliefs of their parties. If
But
we
be
look
well aware that that started with Citizens United, that allows corporations to be people and PACs to put in. I mean, you have to realize that yesterday, Boehner tried to move a bill through Congress, and the Heritage is basically a PAC and represented by a former senator that resigned to be said, you better not do that, and Boehner walked away. When people that are unelected but control money, all right, can say you better not pass that bill, and the Speaker of the House, well, he didn't have the votes. They listened to the, and I apologize. It's the Heritage blank, and DeMint, who was a senator, resigned to head it, and it's a huge political money organization. And he said, yeah, you better not. We won't. And you're right. We really need campaign reform, and we're going the opposite direction. McConnell wanted to put a bill in that would have who can give as much money. You don't have to say who you are. I'm saying, man, you can spend this much money and that's it. Because senators and congressmen should look like race drivers and have all the sponsors on their uniform when they
what
go
I
in.
always said, we were born on a citizen legislator.
And thoughts about the Federal Reserve then, the Federal Reserve Act?
About the Federal Reserve Bank, which it isn't. It's always been a private
privately owned
corporation.
institution.
I mean, it's not a government agency. It says Federal Reserve, but the head is appointed by the president. We have a new head coming, a woman. But
Right.
since its creation, it was an organization put together by the banks for the banks.
Well, I disagree, but
it's a privately owned institution that the only time we have to
And
look
do you know who created it?
was with Andrew Jackson carrying it out. And
Andrew Jackson was the national bank. It had nothing to do with the Federal Reserve.
I understand, but without the Federal Reserve, if we don't have a Federal Reserve system, then our books will eventually balance out. You can't keep printing false money, and that's what the Federal Reserve does. It creates what? We're creating
fiat currency.
third world country right now is what's happening. Same thing, inflation, ridiculous amounts. Those notes are pointless. Those notes right now, if you tell me those mean
Gentlemen,
something
let me ask
different-
you, did we go back to the gold system?
Should we go back?
Yeah.
Is that what you asked?
I said, do we go back to
think
the
it
gold
would be
standard?
Safer.
Yeah.
I think that we would avoid a complete economic collapse that we're headed toward.
So to interject real quick.
Might we want to talk about Wall Street and derivatives, and that they're dealing in stuff that is far from anywhere near printed money? Do you realize that when you count the money supply, you
I
don't
do.
count the dollars and bills in your pocket?
This fraud that's been going on for years.
So I did want to say something about the NDAA. There is
I'm sorry, I
some
can't hear you.
I wanted to talk about the NDAA a little bit when you talked about it. There is something called the Feinstein-Lee Amendment. I don't know if it's still on there. I don't know. But it said on December 4, 2012, the unanimously passed, 98-0. I think that's the section you're talking about, because there are some civil liberty groups are concerned with amendment because they think anyone on American soil should be given the right to trial or accused of trial. So that's the bill I think you're talking about on the NDAA. I'm not sure.
That's the bill. That's correct.
So,
But at the same time, when we wanted to try people involved with 9/11 in a New York court,
Well, I also
nobody wanted to go there with that either.
Right. We don't want to. I mean, there's a lot of ties to the CIA that you can deny, you can call crazy, but if you look it up, you'll see some very blatant things that are really unanswered still to this day. That's very sad. And if you think the United States government wouldn't do that, we can talk about the plans for Cuba when they're going to blow up a plane over Cuba with women and children. That was almost passed to go to war with Cuba. So if you don't think our government would do that, pull a red flag. You can look through the CIA's made public records.
Can I ask you who was the head of the CIA after the head of the CIA who put that plan that you're describing, which I won't put credence in one way or the other, but you know who the next head of the CIA was?
I believe.
Which one?
The one
Which
after
period
the
are we
one,
talking about?
I do believe it was in 1974.
Could have been George H.W. Bush, for all I know.
Herbert
I'm
Walker
not-
Bush was the head of the CIA.
Georgie boy.
I'm just saying.
That's our famous
And
words. I'm
then,
just saying.
then he became vice president, and then he became president, a one-term president, because he made the error of saying no new taxes. It's difficult in government to make those kind of absolutes. And I think
Unless you're Barack.
George Herbert Walker Bush is a hell of a guy.
Poor
I
Barry.
mean, I don't agree with him much, but as to being a patriot, as to being an American,
He's a
as to
hell
being
of a guy.
a good soul, he is.
I mean, he's done. You think Iraq was good? I mean, what was that about?
Herbert Walker Bush's Iraq was good, but he has a coalition of the entire rest of the world because
Why doesn't
Iraq
he
attacked
think going to
another
Iraq
country.
was good?
Kuwait.
Yeah, what he's talking about is Herbert Walker Bush was the first Bush presidency, when it happened in 90-something. And it originally happened because Iraq was invading Kuwait, and this was us saving them.
And we lied to them on that also, because they asked if we invaded Kuwait, would the United States do anything? And we told them no.
Who told them no?
I mean, there's a lot of documentation on that also.
Well,
We
if
should've
you're
never entered Iraq. What
if
was
you're-
Iraq for?
If
What
you're
did it
talking
look
about
like?
that was our response to Iraq, I guarantee that was disinformation then. That was enough information for them to not protect their borders so we could do it.
You really believe that there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
What-
You really, truly believe
No,
that?
no. Now you're talking about W's war.
Yeah,
We're
there's
talking about Herbert
Both wars
Walker
were
Bush's
complete
war,
for ultimate
which was
control.
a coalition that included Great
This is
Britain,
the exact
Australia,
thing.
France,
There's no point
most
behind
of the
it.
Western world was and had troops.
Guys,
in
we can only have one person talk at a time here.
Sorry.
So you're both
don't just to set the conversation. Which Bush Iraq war are you talking about? The first or the second
Both
one?
of them are the same. There's no point to either of them. The Middle East, Afghanistan is the fall of what? It's the fall of empires. Why are we still there? I mean,
Can I ask you a question really quick related to the Bushes?
Go.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Do you really think fundamentally Prescott Bush's beliefs and fundamentals are any different from George Jr. or whatever you want to call him beliefs?
W. Yeah, if you go to
George W.
Prescott Bush was a congressman and he was censured by Congress for doing banking business with the Nazis during World War II. Herbert Walker
Absolutely right,
Bush,
he did.
when 9/11 happened, was at the home of the Bin Ladens because of their ties to BP and oil way back when, and the two families have been friends for many generations. It goes back to what you said much earlier. We've got deep pockets money, and it's been going on for a very long time I won't go to the level, and I'm no disrespect to you guys. I hear Illuminati and all this kind of stuff all the time. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but we have big, big, big new world order kind of money in our government and every other government in the world. And the question is, guys, how do we get them out? Are they too far entrenched? And even if we got into the streets and took Jonathan's 1,000 round, 100 caliber, go through brick walls weapons, do they? How do we get them out? Rather than going with the conspiracy, and as the WMD, no, they didn't exist. The Gulf of Tonkin didn't happen in Vietnam, and I'm not sure. Remember, the Maine was blown up by the Cubans. There's evidence to say it wasn't. We've been fooled into many, many wars over centuries. The question is, what do we do to get that money, that NWO that you were talking when we started this, out? Because we can point the finger, but we have to come up with a solution. Because you're right, it's wrong.
No, I guess, yeah, that we can all definitely agree now that there's, the government's ripe with corruption. There's always been corruption since day one. I mean, I don't want to keep spinning our wheels about how corrupt the government is, but you do bring up a good question that's, not easy to answer, and that is, what do we do? And, me and Josh being, 20, 21, 23, we don't, all we can do is kind of spread the information to our generation who really, for the most part, has absolutely no understanding of this type of.
You're right on the money there, buddy.
And
you know
but,
what?
and I'll come back to you.
Well, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I think no, he's right. The whole way that any of this information gets disseminated is you have to have like-minded people, and your peer group needs to get involved. And what I hear time after time in the people in their 20s, is
I don't think they can hear. Can you hear him?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, how about me?
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so back to my point was your group, your peer group, the 20-year-olds need to get informed, because too many of them, I'll see them at Starbucks and we'll talk about an issue, and they just are at such a point, they're disenfranchised, they don't give a damn.
And guys, let me just interject.
What matters, right?
What's that? Wait, hold on,
Wait,
John.
hold on, John. Just 1 second.
What was that?
That was sarcasm. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's right. No, my point is, though, you have to look back. Yeah, you need to look back a little bit at the Vietnam War and how we were able to change what was going on during that period of time. Because we got out on the streets, we protested peacefully, we put pressure on Congress and the president.
And by the way, these two hippies here, Mr. Charney and the old guy in the box, actually were there. So these aren't people who are just saying it. They actually did it, which is not something you hear a lot of.
Except I usually take a shower every day. But the issue is here, guys, and you're absolutely right. But when you get the information, and it's easier, but it's harder. All right, believe me, J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI in the 60s. He still was. And so the FBI was subverting and infiltrating, and they knew how to do that, as well as the CIA. There were faux hippies, believe me. And you had to be careful what you said to whom. There were also people that were planning acts of distinct and violent civil disobedience that would have destroyed the movement or maybe changed the movement. My only suggestion to you is make sure, don't go with the History Channel, don't go with the Military Channel. You may have to go to hard books, okay? Yeah, but what you do need to do, and Rob is absolutely correct, my only admonition is make sure that you know what the hell you're talking about. Not just making an argument, not just repeating rhetoric, but you got to do your homework to be an effective agent in the street for change.
This what I'm about to state is completely my opinion, but I will say I think the first way to change it is pick an issue you care about more. Don't Don't focus on the giant issue because that's too much energy, just too much. Find one thing you care about the most, aim for that, and then keep going. And once you change that, do that. That, to me, has always been the best way to change, is focus on one major issue at a time.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and I recommend just the issue to go for is we need to get dollars and cents out of elections. I was reading a thing about McConnell the other day because there's a Democratic woman running against him, and they were saying she has raised as much money in the last quarter as he has. Elections aren't about how much money you raised.
Yeah,
They
the
shouldn't be.
media. That's a media thing. That you're right.
Shouldn't get involved with it really either.
Yeah, I mean, CNN on record pretty much works for the White House, and then, Media Matters is run by the White House on record.
Yeah, but but the Heritage Foundation is run by the conservative. I mean, you've got PAC money on both sides. Obama now has a PAC, right? He's not running for president, but a PAC means a money group that can. I'll just give you an example. In the first election, I bought an Obama bumper sticker. All right. I have been regaled. I have email on my email right now talking about they did this. Can you send us at least $3? And I'm going, I think my political support is enough. You don't need 3, 5. We are a consumer economy, so everything is in terms of how much dollars will you spend, and that is not democracy. Dollars and democracy it's an equal sign with a line through it. You guys know what that means. It's not equal. Right. Democracy is people voting for representatives that represent what they want to have done.
I do. Should be. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I wanted to just found something that talks about the NDAA. The other issue is California California Governor Jerry Brown just signed the NDAA Infinite Detention Nullification Act into law.
Yeah. Okay, well, so that's only is that a state law? Is he nullifying that for just?
And what it would be is it would make it illegal to actually get somebody in the state of California. It's just like
that doesn't matter because the federal government trumps state.
Well, here's why it matters.
NSA will come and get you.
Well, here's why, believe it or not, it actually matters. It's a state. It is the largest, most powerful economic state in the United States. There are 2 states that set the precedent for the entire nation. California is one of them. If you change California, it makes eyes turn. Simple as that.
Right.
I mean, I could go into regale you with, federal legislation from 1849. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Higher populated states.
You've got your computer speakers back on.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
So,
I heard come on, you guys go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
Oh no, I don't know what direction we're heading here.
Well, it's just
we're kind of headed towards the door because we've got 8 minutes to wrapping this up.
Yeah, we're
I
close
think you guys are great.
Great, absolutely. I wanna thank you guys for being involved.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good talking to you.
And please keep watching the show and get others to watch and get others to call in because it's your opinions and your ideas and your discussion that we want to talk about. You make this relevant. We need you. We need your demographics to come in and talk to us and share opinions. And, some of us have lived a long enough life that we've gone through some of this. So maybe we can impart a little bit of our experience onto it. But, hey, guys, you're fantastic. All I can say is thank you very much for calling. Right on with paying attention to what's going on in this world. You get a thumbs up from us. Good job. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah, keep on trucking.
Right,
thank you so much.
Don't hang up yet because I have a suggestion for you. Go ahead,
real quick, John.
Well, as crazy as this sounds, we're coming to the end of October, and Thanksgiving's right around the corner. Somewhere in your house or somewhere, I'm sure you can find it on any music service. You need to listen to a a song by Arlo Guthrie Jr. called Alice's Restaurant. It's terribly amusing, but part of what we're doing here on Old Guy TV, and thank you, you guys made this valid, is it's just a couple of people, and then a few more people call and they listen, and then it becomes a movement, and then it becomes something that could make a difference. But it starts by you guys, picking up the phone, calling Old Guy Tech TV, and throwing it around with the two old heads. And Jonathan's 30 now. Back in our day, he had no credibility, but he's got some now. You're doing a great job. But the reason why I say listen to Alice's Restaurant, it's really the way things work in America, and you kind of go, maybe if. And it's all about the Vietnam War.
I also wanted to let you know that if you have a Facebook page, Old Guy Tech does have a Facebook page. The link's on our website. Please like our Facebook page. And continue the conversation online. That's one of the reasons we have that, is to continue the conversation after the show ends. So please like our Facebook page.
Okay, definitely.
All right, guys. Well, I want, again, just going to wrap it up with you. I want to thank you very, very much for calling. You did great. Let's keep the discussion going. Feel free to call in every week and, pick a subject, and we'll talk about it, because it's you guys that are gonna carry on and make this country what it needs to be. John and I are.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, good. Good. John and I are on the back side of it. We need you guys on the front side of it, so we'll make something happen. So,
Rob, I don't have your money. I'm not completely on the back side of it.
Okay. Hey, thank you, guys. We'll talk to you maybe next week.
Okay. Have a good
Thank
one.
you very much for calling, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
A ton.
So that was great. That was super. Those guys were right on, and I really love hearing guys in their 20s, gals in their 20s, with some smarts. I mean, the fact is, too many of the young guys, young women, young men just don't pay attention. They feel disenfranchised. They feel like their vote doesn't count for anything. And we've been there. We know what that feels like. But it doesn't mean that it can't be changed.
Well, and Jonathan's already given up.
Yeah, well.
I haven't given up. I just have no hope for the federal government.
Oh, then you better talk to the 20-year-olds, because they are your hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. I mean, the guys, Josh, and I forgot the other gentleman's name.
Yeah,
please call again. You're a super addition.
We really appreciate it. We can't thank you more. And,
now, if you get a job, send money.
Yeah, yeah. And when you have a couple of bucks, donate. It's the only way it runs, right?
Like the Facebook, because that gets us the credibility to go to, hopefully not the political influence people, but other people, and say, look, we've got people of this broad demographic that have liked our Facebook and are following and participating, and that's how you can generate money. I mean, that's the quid pro quo.
And a little self-promotion. If you like movies, check out Real Flicks Reviews. We're coming out every Tuesday. It's the book club for movies on Old Guy Tech TV.
And one of these days he'll watch Soldier in the Rain and talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah, he'll do it. To kind of wrap things up a little bit, it was really interesting. I was reading an article from an op-ed piece on disturbing polarization in media worsens political partner video. I'm sorry.
MSNBC and Fox News.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It just starts out, it says, I think a lot of people look back at this point in American history and wonder how things got so damn screwed up. It wasn't always a given that there would be a mindless gridlock at Capitol Hill, unchecked extremism, and a general lack of leadership. Sure, one could point out the corruption influence of lobbyists and interest groups on Congress, or to gerrymandering, or to Citizens United, which allows money to literally control politics and has made political parties less relevant, and allowing the proliferation of ultra-conservative Tea Party. There are plenty of others. So it's very interesting, the opinions everybody has about what's going on, from the uber liberals to the uber conservatives, all pointing fingers at each other. And unfortunately, a lot of it does come down to dollars and cents.
I got into a Facebook thing with just some people that had posted something, and it went back and forth and back and forth. And of course, I was the only one with that oozy goozy liberal, as we
Come on,
they called it, moderate point of view.
You're practically
and in the
communist.
At the end, he said, "And the revolution will not be and the revolution will be televised." And my comeback was, "The Civil War will be on pay-per-view."
Probably so.
I hope people
They won't do it unless there's $1 in it, folks.
And
That's money.
I really do hope people don't really think the idea of a revolution or civil war at this point is going to be a good idea. Because if you actually look at the difference between civilians and the U.S. military, it'll be the fastest civil war in history.
Well, but maybe we say this for next week. Our friend that was outside the fence at the White House with a Confederate flag.
Right. Well, listen,
That's a serious message, folks.
we've run over a little bit over an hour. I think it's a great show. We had a wonderful time. So I want to thank everybody. John, Jonathan, this is Rob for Old Guy Tech TV. We'll see you guys next week in May. Don't forget, donate button, give us a call. We'll see you then.